The trailer for the Wolf the Rohirrim is finally here, and I'm quite excited for this anime coming out in the middle of December. So let's get to it and do a full breakdown of what we actually see in the trailer. Then at the end I'll share my thoughts and some comments about the trailer overall. So we start with some shots from the films we all know and love, and the beautiful music of Rohan. And of course a very familiar name, Peter Jackson. We get a quick look at Helm's Deep and an eagle, I assume one of the great eagles, that aren't actually living in Rohan. Then we have this shot of what I assume is Helm Hammerhand on horseback, based on the shape of his helmet. Then Helm's Deep again during winter. This is without doubt the siege, with the Dunlendings standing outside the walls, and look at that. It looks exactly like in the films. This is awesome and it feels like a homecoming. Then we see an army marching with at least 3 elephants. These could be Rohirrim, and it could be Dunlendings, but who knows. But at least we now know there are multiple elephants and not just one. And the Rohirrim, with a cool voiceover by Brian Cox as Helm Hammerhand. I assume this guy is one of his sons, Hammer or Haleth. Then we see Edoras burning. This is likely after Wulf conquers it, or during the siege. Helm Hammerhand again, and the dialogue continues, sounding a lot like Theoden at the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and then riding forward to battle, of course. Then we have Meadowsell, the Golden Hall at night. Once again, it looks exactly like in the films, which is just really awesome. And here we have the king inside the hall, along with his daughter, and I assume his 2 sons. We've already seen this shot before, but it appears to be the scene where Freca comes to Edoras to ask for Helm's blessing that his son would marry Helm's daughter. Now, allegedly, and based on this trailer, the protagonist of the story will be Helm's daughter, Héra. In Tolkien's version, she isn't central to the story. In fact, she doesn't even have a name. So I'm not a huge fan of turning her into the protagonist, and it mostly feels like it's because she can be turned into a shield maiden. To be fair though, if anyone other than Éowyn could be a shield maiden, Helm's daughter seems like the best candidate, mainly because of Helm's temper and strength and the bravery of both his sons. It seems likely she'd be somewhat like them. So it's not too far-fetched at least, but it's very understandable if people are a little concerned about how big of a role she will have in the story. It can certainly be exaggerated, and I guess this is what we all really fear. In any case, I'm mostly interested to see Helm's story unfold, especially because I have a feeling Brian Cox will do a wonderful job voicing him. He already sounds great in this trailer at least. We then get to see Freca and Wulf for a second entering the hall. So I'm even more certain now that this is the scene we know from the lore, which you can read in the appendices in case you don't know. Interestingly enough, we also get to hear Héra say she doesn't want to marry Wulf. We then see Helm taking off his ring, and I assume this is right before he punches Freca to death and earns the nickname Hammerhand. It looks more like an even fight, unlike in the lore, where it sounds a lot more like one hit and one instant kill. It's even confirmed Freca is killed. Wulf even swears vengeance right in front of Helm. Then we see this bunch of evildoers. They remind me a little of orcs, but I'm pretty sure these are Dunlendings. I assume this is a flashback of Wulf and Héra as they grew up and trained together, which isn't mentioned in the lore of course, but I guess that's the story they're going with. Then a lot of quick shots of an elephant and some dialogue between Héra and Wulf talking about war. It sounds like she's trying to prevent the war, which isn't in the lore at all, but I guess this is her role in the story, and it also matches to what we know from articles. Wulf shouting fire and a hail of arrows. I think he should say loose, but, many people talk about this. He is the main villain of the story, at least if they stay true to the source material, and they seem to do that at least so far. He is the leader of the Dunlendings that invade Rohan, conquer Edoras, the capital, and later lay siege to Hornburg in Helm's Deep, or rather Sothburg, as the castle was called before Helm's time. But I'm not sure that name will be featured at all. Meadowsell again, and Héra standing outside the hall as the enemy approaches. Then an elephant smashing through the walls of Edoras, Now, the elephants aren't actually mentioned in the lore, and it seems quite unlikely they took part in this war. Héra riding through the gates of Edoras, and her opening the doors into the hall of the Hornburg, very much like Aragorn's iconic entrance in the films. I think this is a nice little nod to the films at least. Héra and Helm talking, and the king lecturing her daughter about not knowing about war. That sounds right at least. And then we have her riding through a forest with a spear, and this, I assume, is a ramp the Dunlings has built to scale the walls of the Hornburg. Then we have Héra standing on the walls with an old lady. I guess this could be her mother, or perhaps Hild, the sister of Helm Hammerhand. I'm not sure who else it could be, probably an original character. Then Héra and a great white eagle. We never hear about great white eagles though, so who knows what all this is about. It's something new added to the story for sure. We also get to see Héra in a forest where she is hunted by an elephant. This actually reminds me of a scene we have in the books, where the Rangers of Ithilien flee from an elephant and say a sort of prayer, begging the Valar to turn him aside. I can't help but feel it's inspired by that little scene, at least. Next we see this horrid creature, whatever it is. It mostly reminds me of the Watcher, and it looks very much like it. I'm not really sure how it would enter this story. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it seems to be in a forest with a great river or lake. It's clearly very gigantic and even large enough to take down the elephant. The shape is very much like the Watcher, so I'm pretty sure it actually is that. Then we have the Long Winter, of course, a very iconic part of the entire story. I'm not sure who this guy is with the torch though, maybe Freca, the nephew of Helm. We also see Héra climb, and later fight in what is most likely Edoras burning again. It looks like she's fighting alongside one of her brothers, if not both of them. Then she blows the horn, probably not the horn of Helm Hammerhand, but who knows, they are clearly making some changes to the story. Then riders riding downhill to the Hornburg, just like Gandalf and Éomer in the Two Towers. Wulf with a crown, and whoever this guy is. Héra on horseback, seeming to ride down the Dunling ramp, laying siege to Helm's Deep. Next we have a duel between her and Wulf. It looks a bit like an arena, but it could just be indoors. Perhaps in Middleseld, who knows. Then there's the elephant again, chasing Héra. Now some other place in Rohan. That looks a lot like the place where the Wargs attack in the films. Now at the very end of the trailer, we get to see a ring being put into a satchel, along with other rings. It mostly makes me think of the Dwarven rings, and how Sauron collected them all, except for the ones consumed by dragons. I'm not entirely sure how the Dwarven rings would tie with this story though, so I think this is simply there to tell Sauron is seeking for the one ring, collecting all rings he can find. As the dialogue says, what does Mordor want with rings? I guess we all know the answer to that. We already saw Helm Hammerhand owning a ring earlier in the trailer. The whole idea of ring giving is actually also part of Beowulf, where King Hrothgar is called the ring giver. Given how much Beowulf influenced Tolkien's works, especially the Rohirrim and the chapters taking place in Rohan, it could be inspired by that. So Helm Hammerhand owning a ring is a neat detail that fits well with the setting. There's no knowledge about it, in the lore at least, nor of Sauron collecting rings in Rohan. But it's a cool idea at least. And there you have it. That was my full breakdown of the trailer. I guess if a second trailer drops, it would be easier to get more out of it and what will happen in the story. But it should be clear they're adding a lot of stuff from the actual lore, which is great. I'm excited to see Freca and Helm fight, Edoras under attack, and most importantly, the Hornburg besieged during winter. Now there are of course changes, like Héra's larger role in the story, and her even having a name, her relation to Wulf, the Great White Eagle, the elephants in general, and also the Watcher. There are also more than this, but overall the story still has elements from the lore. I'm a bit sad Gondor seems to be cut from the film entirely, as they dealt with the Corsairs while this war was raging on. I guess it would remove the focus of the story, so it's very understandable. It's really cool they went with the look that is so close to the films, if not identical. It really connects the story to the films we all know and love. I'm a bit disappointed Héra is the protagonist and not Helm, but we've all known this for quite some time now. I do think the animations look a bit clunky. I almost questioned if the trailer was uploaded correctly, as it sort of plays like a video game with very low frame rate. Maybe that's just me, or maybe there is indeed an issue. In any case, I'm quite excited for this film, and I think it has potential despite its changes from the lore. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think it looks interesting? And will you be watching when it airs? Thank you all for watching and being part of the Council of the Rings. If you want to know more about the War of the Rohirrim, check out one of these videos next. Farewell till next time.